Yeah, don't mind the cap, It's horror underneath it. You'd be surprised what chronic depression does to a nigga hairline. Podcasts, they're an interesting beast.
Shut the fuck up in 2024!
They come in all shapes and sizes, covering a wide variety of topics from music to pop culture to games to music to dating advice, whatever the fuck niggas is yapping about nowadays. If a topic exists, best believe there are a group of people currently assaulting a Focusrite condenser mic for 2 hours straight. Now, with that being said, do I hate podcasts? Not at all. Like with all mediums, the good stuff is normally surrounded by a sea of nuclear waste, toxic to the touch, and the Fresh and Fit podcast is said nuclear waste. Fresh and Fit podcast totes itself as a, get this, a men's self-improvement podcast hosted by Myron Gaines, the prolific author of the book Why Women Deserve Less. Sick title, by the way. Quick question. How's your relationship with your mother, mate? And Walter Weeks, a man currently embroiled in a completely avoidable scandal, dealing with the consequences of his own baked goods. The reason why we're talking about the Fresh and Fit podcast today is because there's been a clip doing rounds on the socials about an altercation that took place on their podcast where this woman, diabolical Nash by the way, crashes out and attacks what I can only presume to be the security detail of the podcast after being called really heartwarming and nice things such as,
"You fucking ratchet ass Caribbean host think you can come in here and run the shit the way you want? Get the fuck out of here. Go shake your ass downstairs like the fucking hooker that you are, bitch."
But big whoop, ignorant shit happening on an ignorant podcast. What else is new? But that's not what we're here to talk about. What I really want to talk about is the actual format of the Fresh and Fit podcast. You know, how the thing is structured, you get me? I just want to start out by saying that the Fresh and Fit podcast really fucking sucks, man. Like, it really fucking sucks. When you think podcast, how many people you reckon are involved in the creation of the thing? 2, maybe 3, at the very most 4. Well, unfortunately, these goobers have enough disposable income to afford not 1, not 2, not 5, but 11 Rasclot microphones. You're telling me that each and every single one of these dickheads has speaking privileges at any given time? Holy moly, I wonder how well that goes. In addition to having an obscene amount of people in the room with zero chemistry yapping about whatever the fuck, they do this really cool thing after like instigating and just berating the people that they themselves asked to be on the podcast. They just kick them out. Like, wallahi, they have multiple clips of them doing this multiple times. Why are they doing this? Having a podcast with the chances of the invited guests being kicked off be higher than non-zero is certainly one of the decisions of all time. But little do we know, this is all a setup for Myron's next book, Why Women Deserve Less. Screen time on my podcast. Which brings me to the guests that they bring on. You know, for a self-proclaimed men's improvement podcast, there was an astonishing lack of men. And the improvement of said men, you know, the thing that your podcast is supposed to be talking about. Now, can a podcast claiming to help men have a panel of women that give advice to said men coming from the female perspective? Absolutely, we need more of those. But these goobers just invite women onto their podcast just to berate them and try their damnedest to make them look ignorant.
You have low IQ. You're not able to critically think. You're not able to understand anything. And then you're over here talking about money. What the fuck are bro? Like,
which kind of sucks because controversial opinion of you. I'm gonna say what we're all thinking. I think women are pretty neat. They're squishy. They keep the funny voices in my head quiet whenever they call me a good boy, and they make my eyes go awooga. I think this is the worst aspect of their podcast because it really emphasizes what they're really trying to do here. They are not in the business of helping men. Obviously, they are in the business of providing silly little boys manufactured scapegoats in the form of women for their shitty behavior, colloquially known as misogyny. And I can prove this. Let me deep it for a bit. In this clip, this woman, who is so fucking fire, by the way, save me. She relays her experiences as growing up as a black woman in a household where there is no active father figure and how all of her experiences forced her to become more independent. More power to her. If these scallywags didn't live in a society, they could take the information that she just delivered about her having to gain her own independence and shift that onto how men probably going through the same experiences where their fathers aren't around could use her methods and techniques to gain their own independence, helping men. But unfortunately, the collective IQ of Myron and Walter is about the same as your average Overwatch 2 healer, and they retort by saying,
I'm going to sit down, I'm going to make sure that I take care of myself. I'm not going to submit until I know for sure
that's not
a man
attractive
has
then.
that.
Then that's not attractive.
hey man, I'm currently on 6 different types of antidepressants and anxiety medications. How the flying fuck does anything you just said help me as a man? In conclusion, I'm considering the rope. Unfortunately, spectacles like these are a dime a dozen, and people will always be drawn to a spectacle. It is what it is. Now, if this is your cup of tea, I'm not gonna say you should be forcibly removed from your local census. Like I said in the beginning, this shit is just toxic waste. Don't give them no attention, don't pay them no mind. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of podcasts for your specific taste, and you should probably go give them a listen if you're already not doing it. Great background noise and it keeps the demons away. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. So until next time, take care of yourself, darling, because we're all doing the best we can. Never ever grow up an eye